सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Together we chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verses 1 to 10.
अथ नवमोऽध्यायः।
सुश्री में जाओ नीचे शोभा गैली में जाते हाँ जाओ ना फिर मजा आएगा
गुह्यतमम् प्रवक्ष्याम्यनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मोक्ष्यसे शुभात्। राजविद्या राजगुह्यम् पवित्रमिदमुत्तमम् प्रत्यक्षावगमम् धर्म्यम् सुसुखम् कर्तुमव्ययम्। अश्रद्धधानाः पुरुषाः धर्मस्यास्य परन्तप अप्राप्य मां निवर्तन्ते मृत्युसंसारवर्त्मनि। मया ततमिदं सर्वं जगदव्यक्तमूर्तिना मत्स्थानि सर्वभूतानि न चाहं तेष्वस्थितः न च मत्स्थानि भूतानि। पश्य मे योगमैश्वरम् भूतभृन्न च भूतस्थः ममात्मा भूतभावनः। यथाकाशस्थितो नित्यम् वायुः सर्वत्र गोमहान् तथा सर्वाणि भूतानि मत्स्थानीत्युपधारय। सर्वभूतानि कौन्तेय प्रकृतिं यान्ति मामिकाम्। कल्पक्षये पुनस्तानि कल्पादौ विसृजाम्यहम्। प्रकृतिं स्वामवष्टभ्य विसृजामि पुनः पुनः। भूतग्राममिमं कृत्स्नम् अवशं प्रकृतेर्वशात् न च मां तानि कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय। उदासीनवदासीनम् असक्तं तेषु कर्मसु मयाध्यक्षेण प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरम्। हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपरिवर्तते।
Aditi, The dharma of a human being is to realize the self. But you also mentioned that your dharma could be very different from others in the context of you do what according to you is right. Please clarify. The dharma of a human being is to realize the self. That is not quite correct, Aditi. The dharma of a human being is to realize the self. I don't know if you could say that. I suppose you could, but Vedanta stance is the dharma of a human being is the self, not to realize the self. The dharma of a human being is the self. Now you mentioned that your dharma could be very different from others. That is true. Now this word dharma is a very complicated word in Sanskrit. If you open the dictionary, you will find pages of meanings. So one meaning of the word dharma is your original nature. The dharma of sugar is sweetness. So that which makes you is your dharma. Okay, so the dharma of sugar is sweetness. The dharma of fire is heat. You can't have sugar which is not sweet. You cannot have fire which doesn't have heat. Right? You can have big fire, small fire, conflagration, whatever you have. Bonfire, forest fire, whatever fire. But it has to be hot, whatever it is. And or flame, anything. It has to be hot, whatever it is. That's the dharma of fire. The dharma of sugar is sweet. You can have brown sugar, white sugar, refined sugar, caster sugar, any sugar you can have. Has to be sweet. Okay, so that's so a human being's dharma is what? Is the self. That's one meaning of the word dharma, which means that which makes you you. There's another meaning of dharma, which refers to how most Indians use it as a religion. Okay, there's yet another meaning of dharma, which is that, what according to you is right. That is your dharma. So if for a robber, there are some tribes in India who are thieving tribes. That is their paramparik sort of occupation. So their dharma is a thievery dharma, because what will seem right to them will be that. So like that, each person will have a different comprehension of what is right based on their level of growth, based on their understanding, based on their intellect. Now what is important for every human being is they do what they think is right. It's not for us to judge whether it is right or wrong for anyone else. So you do your dharma, I do my dharma, and we respect each other for doing our dharma. That is the Indian ethos, right? It is not the ethos of singularity in the sense that I will tell you what your dharma is, or you will tell me what my dharma is. No, not at all. You decide yours, I decide mine. If you can execute whatever according to you it is, and I can execute whatever according to me it is, we both worthy of respect. Okay, so this concept that, I know I'm some holder of truth that you're not a holder of is not part of the Indian ethos at all. You do what according to you is right. I will do according to me what is right. Okay, so, but you also mentioned that your dharma could be very different. Of course, it has to be different. How can everybody's dharma be the same? We all have different body, mind, and intellect. We are all at different stages of evolution. Very simple to understand. The dharma of a child is not the dharma of an adult, is not the dharma of an older person. Each one has his own story, and rightly so. I mean, correct. The child cannot live up to an adult's dharma, right? Adult will not behave like an old person's dharma. So in the context of you do what according to you is right. So something will appear right to you. The most important thing of a human being's life is you do that one. Never mind what anyone else has to say. Is that clear?
Yes, Janki ji, thank you. I did not realize that dharma would have so many meanings, and also the clarity dharma is the self, basically, not realizing this. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Akhila, my Hari Om Akhila, my question follows from verse 3, chapter 9. Akhila, and everybody else, okay, if whenever I say anything to anybody in the class, please, it is applicable to everybody in the class. And since I'm in the class, it's applicable to me as well. So I'm going to say it to Akhila, but it's true for you, and it's true for me, and it's true for everybody in the class, that the less we use the word my and I, the better for us. So we need not say this is my question. If you are asking a question, we all assume it is your question. You're not supposed to ask other people's questions. So you say the question follows from verse 3, chapter 9. As far as possible. Now, I don't have to become fanatical, and sometimes people make very convoluted sentences to avoid the I. We don't have to do all that. But just a general awareness. How much am I saying I? How much am I saying my? The whole purpose of Vedanta is to take away this I-ness and my-ness from the body, mind, intellect. So, and don't say I or my when I'm referring to this body, mind, intellect, as far as possible. Now, this is just a practice so that we become aware of the importance we're giving ourselves. Okay, just to become aware. Okay, so the question follows from verse 3, chapter 9. The whole world appears to be a product of vasanas. That's correct. It has come into being through timeless cycle of birth and death. It has come into being through timeless cycle of birth and death. It has come into being through a cycle? Doesn't make sense, does it? Would evolution have been possible without vasanas? Would evolution have been possible without vasanas? What is the need for evolution if there were no vasanas? If there were no vasanas, you're the self. Since there are vasanas, there is the need for evolution. I get the rationale behind the importance of managing one's desires. Okay, good. But to be free of it and thus from the cycle of birth and death seems to be in contradiction with the evolutionary principle of life. You will have to tell us, Akhila, what you mean by the evolutionary principle of life. In Vedanta, the evolutionary principle is you have vasanas, you remove the vasanas, you return to your original Godhead. The more you do that, the more evolved you are. The less you do that, the less evolved you are. If by evolutionary principle you are bringing in Darwin over here.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's what I
So, okay, so once there are vasanas, the vasanas will start manifesting at the very base level of a functioning, let us say, right? And then as it comes into full manifestation, it is the full cycle of evolution. So try and see it from a single human life, and then you see how it works. As the vasana starts, when the vasana starts manifesting at the first, you are basically a multicellular organization in your mother's belly. And then as the manifestation becomes more, you become like a little baby coming out of the womb, right? Now, when this baby has come out of the womb, there's very little manifestation going on, right? And yet there is a little manifestation of its nature coming out. Like some children, they open their eyes and they just smile at you. Some children, they're crying all the time. So little manifestation starts. By 6, 7, you can begin to see the swadharma of the person. By the time they come into teenage years, all the seniors come out. They cease to be as cute as they used to be. Then the adult will show its full manifestation. And then as death approaches, the manifestation will start reducing. Means in old age, So even a tiger in old age cannot be as ferocious as his nature is. That manifestation will start reducing. This is the cycle of a human being's life, and it is the cycle of the universe as well. But the whole thing exists in the first place because there are vasanas. And the moment we rid ourselves of these, the whole thing doesn't exist at all. Is that clear?
No, so Janki ji, when you say that, when it is said that we have to be, through self-realization, we escape the cycle of life and death. That is where I find it a bit contradictory. Like, if that is the very principle of life, that we evolve, then why would you say that we have to escape it?
You don't have to escape it.
Hence, you be free of it and you attain moksha.
Yes, we have to reach the height of evolution, no? The only way of evolving as a child is to become an adult. So you can say it's escaped. It's not escaped. You've grown up.
Okay, I'll think about it. Thank you.
Think about it. I mean, it's not always easy to digest these concepts. And since I can't even see y'all, I don't even know. I mean, are y'all okay with it? Okay. So is it reconciled according to you, Akhila? There are two different principles. Darwin's principle can only come into existence if there were already vasanas. If there were no vasanas, there is no world. The question of Darwinism doesn't arise. Okay, Deepak. Reference Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 19. Chapter 7. Oh, my Gita is not here. The verse translation is, at the end of many births, the man of wisdom reaches me, realizing all this is Vasudeva. Such a great soul is very difficult to find. Sudurlabhaha, difficult to find. Also, it is mentioned that seldom one knows me in essence. We understand from this that one in a generation realizes the self. In chapter 9, verse 2, it is mentioned that the journey to the self is very easy to practice. Susukam, yeah, Durlabham and Susukam, correct. Could you please reconcile? Yes, you're right, Deepak. At one stage, he tells you it's very, very difficult. At the other stage, he tells you it's very, very easy. Sometimes you really feel like telling him, please make up your mind. Is this a difficult journey or an easy journey? It is a difficult journey for those who are very far away from the self and for those who have no commitment to it. It is a very easy journey for those who are close to the self or have a huge commitment to it. It's just like asking the question, is it difficult to do PhD? When you're committed to it, no, it's not. If you're not committed to it, you can find million excuses why it can't be done. No, Swamiji used to give this really nice example. The ashram is in, Deepak of course knows, but for those who don't know, the ashram is in Lonavala. And so he used to talk like this. He used to say, see, for some people will say, there's something to be done in Mumbai. I'll just go to Mumbai and I'll bring back the paper or I'll do whatever it is and I'll come back. They spoke like that. Some people used to say, oh my God, I have to go to Mumbai. I have to pack my bags. Oh my God. And then maybe I have to buy a ticket. Oh gosh, I'll have to buy a ticket. Or oh my God, I'll have to sit in the car and drive all the way to Mumbai. Is the journey easy or is the journey difficult is only a matter of two things. How far are you from it? And how committed are you to it? For some people, things are very easy. Same thing. For some people, very tough. Seems like a big job. For some people, getting up in the morning, okay, fine. For some people, big job. So it is both difficult and easy. Okay, Deepak?
Thank you, Janki.
In fact, in another place, I'm sure you heard this before, he says, not in the Gita, of course, but in another scripture, that it is as easy to realize the self as it is for a needle to pierce a rose petal. So, oh yeah, once they say this, once they say that, because they both are true. Anything else? Okay, Akhila. Okay, so where were we last time? We were on verse 3. Ashraddhadhana purushaha. Those men devoid ashraddha. Shraddha is that faith, is that consistency, is that that commitment. Let's say commitment that you're going to the end of it. So Shraddha is a faith, it's a consistency in action, and it's a commitment. What is commitment? Commitment is what you do when the emotion is no longer sparking you. You're all very excited. Oh, great, let's go to class. Oh, tomorrow morning I'll get up and exercise. You feel very excited. But after some time, that excitement goes away. Like love marriage. Oh, I love you so much. I love you so much. Let's get married. But after some time, that emotional sparking goes away. Now, all you're left with in every endeavor in life is your commitment to it. That's it. That's all you're left with. If you don't have that commitment, you don't have the goal. If you have the commitment, you get the goal. So that's what he's saying. Ashraddhadhana purushaha. Those people who do not have that faith, that consistency, and that commitment, dharmasyasya parantapa, of this dharma, O parantapa, O scorcher of force. Para is the other, is the enemy. Tapa means to burn. So you who are the scorcher, who are the burner of the enemies, because he was such a great warrior, Arjuna, so he calls him Parantapa, that he just go through the enemies like fire. That's what he's calling him. So he says, those people who are without the commitment about this dharma, about this knowledge, about the knowledge of the self, don't have that commitment to your own development, commitment to your own life. Do you not want to have a wonderful life? Do you have a commitment to that? That I am determined that my life will be good. I am determined that I will live up to the dignity of being a human being. I will not leave this world being a taker. You know, like just came here, exhausted all its sort of, what should I say, all the beneficence of nature. He left a huge carbon footprint and did no good. Am I determined that I'm going to make something of my life? That's Shraddha. Aprapya mam, not having prapya, not having obtained anything useful in life. When you hear the word self over here, at the highest level, it means moksha, it means the self, it means God. But it's also true relatively. Did you achieve anything while being here? Anything of note? Anything worthy of being achieved? Don't tell me, yes, I have 2 children. Every monkey has got 2 children. What are you telling me you got 2 children? Yeah, what is that? There's a nice Sanskrit verse that says, eating, drinking, mithuna. Mithuna means this love business. Mating, let us say. This is common to every animal, including humans, because we are also animals. So it's common. Being born, eating, drinking, mating, sort of getting old, dying. This is common across the spectrum. There's no difference between us and the animals as far as That goes. And if that's all we have done, then why did we even need a human form to do this? We are humans. So what have we done? Now you say, oh my God, I did nothing. I only brought up 2 children. No, this is not for us to say, oh, I didn't do anything in the past. This is to say,
What am I doing now?
yeah, what is my commitment from today, from now? Never mind all that happened and didn't happen. भूल जाओ उसको. कुछ हुआ, कुछ नहीं हुआ, forget it. From today I commit. From now I commit that my life will be worthy of being called a life. Not what I did or I didn't do. Maybe I did great, maybe I did badly, but whatever it is, it's gone from today. So if you have the Shraddha in this supreme knowledge means don't just say, oh, you have great faith in God. This faith in God will drive me mad. This whole country has faith in God. It is the most stupid kind of faith. Because what is my faith saying? I will do nothing. God will take care of me. पागलपंती है क्या? Stupid faith. What is real faith? It's like I will do the right thing. I will do my part and God will do his part. He will be forced to do his part. The right faith doesn't say, I will, help me, मैं बेचारा, मैं useless, मुझसे कुछ होता नहीं है. No, faith. Faith is I will do my part and it will all come out well. That's real faith, right? Knowing that if you do it right, how can it go wrong? It can't go wrong. So when you don't have that faith, the consistency and the commitment, aprapyamam, not having achieved God, of course, and not having done anything useful, not forget realization, kuch bhi useful nahi kiya. Nivartante, return, mrityu samsara vartmani, return to the path of the mortal world. Mrityu samsar. Mrityu samsar means, mrityu means death. No mrityu takes place without janma, birth. So janma and mrityu are two sides of a coin. Birth and death are two sides of a coin. One cannot exist without the other. God is supposed to be without death and therefore without birth. All of us are supposed to be with birth and therefore we know for certain we are all going to be dead one day. And when we are dead, we all should know also there's possibility of life because these two go together always. If there's birth, there's death. If there's death, there's birth. They will go on together. So birth and death refers to nothing but change. So mrityu samsar. What is samsar? Samsar, people understand, oh, I'm married, I have children, it's my samsar. It's not samsar. Samsar means our mental entanglement. So mrityu samsar is our mental entanglement, our involvement in the changes, in the inevitable changes that will take place in our life. We will see our first gray hair. We will become parents. We will become grandparents. We will find a growth in our abilities. We will find a decay in our abilities. We will find many things. Many changes are going to take place. We may find that sometime our life is all about running outside the house, going here, there. Sometimes it is not going anywhere at all. And then who knows, it will come running again. Who knows what that change will be? But if we are not fortified for the change, if we have not become people of character, every change will bother us. So mrityu samsar is involvement in the inevitable changes. So when we don't have our faith, our commitment, our consistency towards something nobler, greater, higher, towards a higher purpose in life, we get battered by all the changes that take place. And interesting word is return. Very interesting word. You return to that change. Means what? These are not different changes. They're the same changes. Marital life is the best example. You and your spouse get along very nicely for a time. Then old wounds start again. Then you'll have the same fight which you always have. Then after some time it will all settle down. Again there'll be harmony. Then after some time the old cycle will start. Same fight, not a different fight. What I don't understand is why can't these couples be a little more creative? Like fight on different issues, no? Thoda maja to la do. Even I will enjoy hearing the stories then. Otherwise, same story I hear each time. थोड़ा तो मुझे कुछ entertainment तो दे दो. Some different thing you fight over. Same thing. Return. The people who have permanently have financial issues. Those who have health issues, permanently health issues. Because we are not committed to anything. So therefore, nothing is ever solved. It just goes round and round, the same merry-go-round. So we return, aprapyamam, not having attained the higher state. We go round and round in the same state. Some people say, I don't know whether there's next life. Don't worry about it. Whether there is or there isn't, we will continue to rotate in the same place, in this Janma itself. So we need not worry about other Janmas. So what is the way out? Because he put it negatively this time, you can put it positively. What did he say? He said, if you don't have Shraddha, if you don't have the faith, the consistency and the commitment in this knowledge, in being determined to grow up, in being determined to do better, if you don't have that, please note, I'm just making it relative over here. He is talking about the self. But to just make it easy for us to understand, saying, okay, just get out of the current situation. Itna to kar lete hain. Aprapyamam. We don't get out of that situation and we go round and round the merry-go-round in exactly the same place.
Hariom Janki. Hello.
That's why, yeah, one second, Ganesh. That's why the word return. It's not different. It's return to the same irritation, to the same problem, to the same everything. Yeah, go ahead, Ganesh.
Hariom Janki ji. Are people born with a stronger Shraddha? I'm just giving an example of Swamiji since I know him a little bit. He has achieved so much, right? Even in 90, he's doing a lot. And even they go through a lot of challenges like the lockdown or I don't know what and all. Have they got a better situation? Have they been born with it or have they developed Shraddha to reach such great heights? And why can't regular people like me do that? Even though we have positive intention, how is that? So any thoughts on that?
I don't know whether anyone was born with it or not, but this much we know, Ganesh, that you can only be born with
Vasana you have.
With what you died with, isn't it? So even if you claim that in this Janma he was born with Shraddha, then it has to be that he worked for it last Janma. So whether we assume that he worked for it last Janma or we assume that he worked for it this Janma is really irrelevant. Nobody has it without work. So why don't we have it? Where's our work? There is no such thing as a great human being. You and I are equally great. You and I and everybody on the surface of this planet are equally great. Nobody is greater and nobody is lesser. However, some of us are greater than others because their work is great, not because of any other reason. And today, if we make the commitment to do the work that we're supposed to do, it is a question of time. We will be the Christ, we will be the Muhammad, we will be the Rama, we will be the Krishna, we will be whoever according to you is the great soul. Just a matter of what am I doing? Just what am I doing? From today, I will decide to do it. And it's just a question of time before I become whatever it is that I've decided to be. So you asked, what are the thoughts on it? The thoughts on it is get down to work today. Never mind whether we are great or not. We all are equally great. Let's get down to work.
Understood, Janki. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that is our verse 3. Let's go to verse 4. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakamurtina matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvavastitaha maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakamurtina matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvavastitaha. Okay, so from here on, he is going to live up to his promise. Last verse was a very easy verse for us to comprehend. From here onwards, starts the talk. So, I don't know if you have noticed in the Bhagavad Gita, he sort of goes up and down in layers. He'll say some very simple things, lull you into security. So nice. 1, 2, and 3 were all nice security verses. Say, oh, yeah, this is all correct, this is all correct, this is all correct. Everybody has stopped thinking. Now, here starts the problem. Remember what he promised. Remember, what has he promised us in this chapter?
Jnanam, Vijnanam.
Jnanam, Vijnanam.
Jnanam.
Wisdom and knowledge.
Knowledge and wisdom, correct. And how is he going to give us the wisdom?
We have to reflect. We have to.
Yeah, but he says he's going to give it to us. So how is he going to give it?
By confusing us.
By confusing us. Because you're not reflecting. Everybody says in Vedanta class, ask anyone, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what is the way to knowledge? And everyone in the class will say reflection. Everybody knows that so well. The formula has been memorized. But is anybody doing it? I don't want to ask that question. So Krishna says, okay, you guys, you're not doing it. I'm going to make you do it. So look at how beautifully he is going to force you to think. Verse 4 tells us, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina. Maya, by me. Tatam, idam. Idam means this world. Jagat, idam jagat, this world. Sarvam, all this world. Tatam, pervaded. I have pervaded this whole world. Okay, fine. God is all pervading. I hope this is clear to everybody. God is all pervading. There's no place where God is not. How do you know that God is all pervading? You know that God is all pervading because God is the state of the infinitude, isn't it? God is the state of completeness, of wholeness. Isn't that right? So if God is infinite, there is no end, right? If there is no end, that means there is no boundary. Correct? Now, there is an end to this body because there's a boundary. Right? Okay, so much boundary. This head exists only so much. It does not exist here. Therefore, it has a shape. It has a form because it has a boundary. Right? Got that? Anything infinite cannot have a boundary because boundary makes it finite. I hope that much is clear. So God is infinite. Therefore, there is no boundary. Therefore, there is no form. Therefore, it's all pervading. It's the same thing. difference. All the various qualities of God that we hear of, they're not different qualities, the same quality, but they're just different expressions. Then he says, I am everywhere. There is no place I am not, because the moment you put him, you say, okay, this is outside God, that means you gave God a boundary. That means you limited his power. That means he can't be there. So what does that mean? Now you can take examples for that. So we say that, what is that thing? Char Dham. What are the Char Dhams? Rishikesh is very sacred. What about New York? Is New York sacred? Yes, no. What happened? Okay, what is sacred? Wherever God is should be sacred, right?
Rome.
Yes.
Right.
Rome will be sacred.
What would be sacred?
Rome for the Catholic. Rome. Rome in Italy.
Oh, okay, Rome. Rome, Jerusalem, Rishikesh, sacred.
Mecca.
Mecca, sacred. And my question is New York sacred?
Yes, it is.
Yes, God is
Why is New
everywhere.
York sacred?
Yes.
God
God is everywhere.
so we should be there in New York as well.
Yes, correct, isn't it? If the presence of God makes a place sacred, then it must therefore mean that every place is sacred. The temple is sacred, the church is sacred, the synagogue is sacred. Then the cremation ground, the burial ground should be equally sacred because God is there. If the sage is sacred, then what about the sinner? Is the sinner sacred?
Yes.
Then the sinner has to be sacred because God is there. If the place, if the mandir in your house is sacred, then the city dump is also sacred. Have you been to, what is that, Devnar, right? Sacred. God is there. Where your friend is, where your guru is, sacred. Where your enemy is, where the ignorant are, equally sacred. Maya tatamidam sarvam idam jagat. I have covered, I have pervaded idam jagat sarvam, the whole world. There is no place that God is not. Then how come we don't see him? He says, I am avyakta murtina, in the unmanifested form. Murti is form. Avyakta, vyakta is manifest. Avyakta, not manifest. I have pervaded this world in the unmanifest form. You cannot see me in the temple, in the church, in the synagogue. You cannot see me in New York, Paris, London. You can't see me there, and you won't see me there either. You can't see me anywhere because I am in the unmanifest form. All the old religions say that. The Zoroastrians, the Jews, the Vedic religion, every one of them says that the God is unmanifest. You cannot take his name also. Do you know why you can't take the Lord's name? Marge, do you know why you are not allowed to take the Lord's name?
Yeah, because it's sacred and then like it's defiling it so that we don't say the name Adonai, you know?
Yes, you don't say the name because he doesn't have a name. Whatever you call him is a wrong name. It's called secret because it is not known. It is a secret. Every one of them say that. I don't know if you all are familiar with this, that amongst the Jews, it is not it is not acceptable to take the Lord's name. You may have heard the commandment, do not take the Lord's name in vain. So you're not allowed to take the name of the Lord. You refer to him. You do not call him by name. Because you can't. Whatever you choose to call him, you will be wrong. You're speaking an untruth when you call his name. Whatever you choose to call him. When I was young, I used to really battle this one out. In school, I went to a Christian school, the convent schools, and in the convent schools, they told us, thou shalt not take the name of, we used to say, oh God, and stuff like that. And so Christ or something, talk like that. So then the nuns would tell us, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. And I came home and I told my mom that you shall not take, she must have said, hey Dev or something, she must have said, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. So she said, that is strange. In us, they tell us all the time, take the name of the Lord. जो भी है मुंह में हो तो राम नाम, अरे हर टाइम राम का नाम मुंह में होना चाहिए. That's confused me so much. I still remember, must have been like what, 5 or 6, and I was like, what? राम का नाम लेना चाहिए or thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. These guys should really get together and decide what's the right one instead of leaving it for me to decide this. And then it turned out later on that both were right. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain, correct? In vain means what? You're thinking you're calling his name, you're not. And thou shalt say Ram Nam. Why should you say Ram Nam then? It's just a symbol, it's just a pratik, it's just a sign, because you must say something, right? Just to remind yourself that there is something beyond all of this, something that I do not know, and yet something there. And not only that I don't know it, it is so inherent to me. So there's so many things in the world I don't know, and I'm never going to know them. But this is something that is the closest to me. How could I not know this? It is the thing that I've got the most to do with. How can I not know that? It's like I don't know who my husband is. How can I not know that? I don't know who my child is. How can I not know that? Right? So how can I not know this? This is my own original nature. How could I not know that? So you find that different relations tell you very many different things, and somehow they're all right. Every one of them. But we will fight foolishly over things. So it is very true to say, don't take the name of the Lord in vain. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. Equally true to say, keep repeating the name of the Lord. Both are true. Everything is sacred. Everything. Vedanta goes so far as to say, all you need is single pointedness. That's all you need in life. You can say table, 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 chair, chair, chair. It doesn't matter. You can say my husband is my Lord, Pati Parmeshwar. You can say my wife is Gruha Lakshmi. You say whatever you want. You say my child is Bal Krishna. Doesn't matter what you say. As long as that thing is more important than yourself, your truth. This body, mind, and intellect that I give so much importance to, that only is the problem. So Maya tatamidam sarvam idam jagat avyaktamurtina. By me is pervaded this whole world, but in the unmanifested form. You cannot see it. What does unmanifested form mean? You cannot perceive it with your senses. You cannot feel it with your emotions. You cannot conceive it with your thinking. So if you say, I know God, then you're on the wrong track. If you say, I can feel God, then you're on the wrong track. If you say, I saw God, then you're definitely on the wrong track. I suggest to see a psychologist. So when you have all these notions, all these emotions, and all these perceptions, know that they are wrong. Because the Lord himself is saying, avyaktamurtina, unmanifested. What is manifestation? Perception, emotion, and thought. That's manifestation. What is unmanifest? Not perceivable, not emotionable, some word like that, not felt, and not thinkable, not conceivable. So, matstani sarva bhutani. Matstani, in me, stani, mere stani, they all exist in me. Sarva bhutani, sarva, all, bhutani, beings, na teshu aham. All beings are in me, I am not in them. Okay, here starts the complication. Okay, I hope the first line is clear. Oh, Surendra, if God cannot be perceived, how do we know him? Surendra, you cannot know him. You cannot perceive him, you cannot feel him, you cannot know him. You cannot do that because God or the self is the knowing principle. Try and think of it like a torch. The flashlight can let us see everything. Wherever you shine your flashlight, you can see that thing, but your flashlight, your torch, can never light its own battery. Your intellect can make you understand everything, but your intellect cannot let you understand what makes you understand. You can't do that. Because you take the battery and you put it in front, the torch is gone, right? So you can't do that. You cannot know it. You can only remove the body, mind, intellect, and what remains is the self. You cannot know the self through the body, mind, intellect. You will see this mentioned in various forms across the board. In the scriptures, the lovely example is of the tongs. The tongs can be used to hold everything except the hand that holds them. Are you okay, Surinder?
Yes, ma'am.
So you cannot know the self. You cannot feel the self. You cannot think the self. You cannot perceive the self. You can only become the self. But you can't even become the self. Why can't you become the self?
You are already this.
Sorry?
Because you are the self.
You are already this.
You're already the self. What are you going to become? So it's very difficult to say anything, right? Everything becomes you say you have to realize the self. What? Realize who? Who is realizing what? None of these are correct terms, and yet you will have to use some terminology, right? Otherwise, how do you even speak about it?
Then what is this quest for self, ma'am?
To find out what your original nature is.
Okay, okay.
Hemant. Sri Ramakrishna said to Swami Vivekananda that he had seen God. The amount of times somebody has argued it like this. Yes, many sages said many things. But did we understand those things? He has seen God, correct? But did we understand it? He told him, but I can see him as clearly. I can see her as clearly as I see you standing there. He said that to him. True, he said that. But what he meant by that, nobody will know. There's always, in Hindi also we have that. What is that? What is his name? Narsinha. What is his name? Gujarati saint?
Narsimhan.
Huh?
Narsimhan. Narsimhan.
Narsi Mehta.
Narsi Mehta. Okay, so he sings the song, right? Darshan do Ghanashamanath Mori Akhiyan Pyasi Re. I mean, I'm sure he said that in Gujarati, but darshan do. Give me darshan of the Lord. Let me see you. Akhiya Pyasi Re. My eyes are thirsty. This is the nature of poetry. Like, how do we, how we say, I mean, we say no, that you have to realize the self. That's also incorrect. Just as saying, give me darshan, that's also incorrect. Whether you put it the emotional way, the poetical way, or you put it the rational way, they're both incorrect.
Janki ji, the next line in that poem is Man mandir mein moorat teri, fir bhi na dekho surat teri. So it is saying that God's right inside you, God's all around you. But is that we don't realize that we have everything inside us. So our journey gets inhibited there.
Yes, but it's also not true to say it is inside you. It is not inside you. It is you. So everything that you say is wrong.
Yes.
I mean, like there's nothing you could say that could be right in this path. It's a very sad thing. So now Vivekananda came to Sri Ramakrishna and said, what nonsense about God and all. Kisne dekha hai isko? Now Vivekananda would not have started his path if Ramakrishna told him, ha, kisi ne nahi dekha usko. Because he was rebellious. He was, what should I say? He was a ripe student, but he had some, like he was not going to listen unless he told him that. So he told him that. It's part of aggressive goodness, what we would call aggressive goodness. I told him, I'm seeing it. In other words, all he's indicating is it is not as abstract. It is not false. It is not abstract. There is something there. That's all he's telling him. But now, no matter what a sage says, we have this amazing ability to misunderstand it. So many sages just kept quiet. They said, I'll say nothing only. That will solve the problem. So it's amazing. But the truth will remain the same no matter how somebody says it and no matter how somebody perceives it. The truth will remain the same. I hope that's okay, Hemant. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avaktamurtina. I pervade this world in the unmanifest form. Matsthani sarvabhutani. Okay, so I pervade this world. I am everywhere in this world. Matsthani sarvabhutani. In me are all the beings. I am not in them. Okay? Aham na teshu. I am not in them. They are in me. What is that supposed to mean? That's supposed to mean, see, we say God is in everybody. No, he's saying I am not in them. What is he saying? He's saying you guys are in me. You don't talk big to me. It's like the ocean saying the waves are in me. I am not in the ocean waves. It's like sometimes the class members meet my brother and they say, oh, you look just like her, and he says, nonsense, she looks just like me, because he's my older brother. So when you he says, I don't look like her. I mean, she came after me, right? So how can I look like her? She looks like me. A child looks like the parent. The parent doesn't look like the child, right? So similarly, God exists. You can't say God exists in us. We say we exist in God, right? The wave exists in the ocean. The ocean doesn't exist in the wave. The fish exists in the ocean. The ocean doesn't exist in the fish. I hope that much is clear. Clear? All the world is pervaded by me. Every wave is pervaded by me, says the ocean. However, the waves exist in me. I don't exist in them. So beings exist in God. You cannot say that God exists in beings, because God is the greater, right? So we, like for instance, we don't say India exists in us. We say we live in India. Isn't it? So much, so far so good. I hope so far so good, because please understand it, because from now on it is only going to get more complicated. So what did we learn in this verse? That I pervade the world. All the beings live in me. You cannot say that I live in those beings, because they live in me. Like you can't say the ocean lives in the waves. You say the wave is in the ocean. I hope that much is clear. Thank you, clear about this, because next time he will have a different view on this matter. Okay. Hari Om.
Hari Om Janki.
Hari Om
Thank you.
Hari Om Janki ji.
Hari
Thank
Om.
you.
Thank you, Janki ji.
Hari Om
Hari Om.
Janki ji.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Janki
Om
ji.
Janki ji. Thank you.
जी हरिओम
Thank you.
Hari Om Janki.
थैंक यू जानकी जी
Thank you, Janki ji. Hari Om.